I'm Judy Zelina, and this is the Millcreek Government Channel. Today, we have as a guest a familiar face, or maybe I should say a familiar voice to many of us. We have Joel Miller joining us, and he was a very, very well-known mobile DJ in the Erie area.
And on the radio before that.
And on the radio before that. That's why I'm saying voice. So, but he is no longer doing that, and Joel is here to tell us about an organization that he has been associated with for quite a while, and it's called Royal Family Kids.
That's right.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Judy. Thanks for having me. A pleasure to be here.
Now, what took you from what you were doing, playing music for weddings and everything else, to Royal Family Kids? Big transition.
Right. Well, first of all, this is volunteer work, and that was a career that I did for 35 years and just retired from 5 years ago. But in my younger years, I was a camper each summer and eventually worked at a church camp on permanent staff. I was a lifeguard for 3 years, and that, I guess, was my initiation into this sort of camping, residency camping.
You enjoyed the outdoors and
Right, and those sort of camping experiences. So later on, many years later, when the opportunity came to have a Royal Family Kids Camp started in this area, I immediately volunteered. And for the first 5 years we had the camp, I was the assistant director. And then this is now my seventh year coming up this summer as the director of the camp.
Well, first off, though, what is Royal Family Kids?
Royal Family Kids Camp is a free week-long overnight camp for boys and girls between the ages of 6 and 12 that, at least in our case, are connected with the Erie County foster care system. We are one of, this summer there are approximately 225 Royal Family Kids camps around the world, and 202 in the U.S., and the rest are spread over several foreign countries, primarily South Africa and Australia and Chile, and there's one in Namibia this year, and one in Wales. And we are one of the newer camps in 2017, I believe, will be in Ireland. So, all of the kids in Erie County come to us through the Erie County Office of Children and Youth, which is OCY. So, really, we do this in partnership with OCY, as does each of the Royal Family Kids camps. They are essentially in partnership with whatever social services organization handles the foster kids in their county, and the camp would provide things, do things that the social services agency, the government, is not equipped to do or willing to do or has money to do. So we are 100% volunteers. Even the people in the organization was started in California in 1985, so it's the 32nd year for the organization, our 12th year.
Okay.
Even the people in California have to raise all of their own support.
Really?
Except for a few, the office staff that do a lot of the clerical work. But it's truly a volunteer organization.
Now, how did you find out about it to get on board?
Well, we are sponsored locally by Erie First Assembly of God Church. Each of the camps has a sponsor, and it's not denominational. I think there are 30-some different denominations over the organization that sponsor a camp. And I should say, before we go any further, the sponsorship essentially affords us a location to do training for the volunteers, secretarial work for getting our things printed that we needed and mailed out and so on. And Erie First gives us a bus to take the volunteers to camp in. We take the campers to camp in a motor coach. That's part of the royal treatment for Royal Family.
How exciting for them, all kidding aside.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you a good story about that in a minute here. But so that happens to be the church that I attend. And one day, many years ago, I would say at this point, maybe 20 years ago, the founder of Royal Family, Wayne Tesh, came to our church and gave a presentation about the possibility of starting a camp in Erie County. He happens to be a distant cousin of the pastor at Erie First Assembly, Jack Reisner, and that was their connection that he brought Wayne in to do that.
All right.
And nothing happened. It was like, that's great. I said, boy, if we ever start one of those, I think I'd like to be involved in that. But some years later, actually a few years after that, finally some people from the church went and as leaders to get the training that is necessary to start a camp. There's a lot of training that goes into this. Even to take over an existing camp like I did, going from assistant director to director, I had to go for a week of training in California just to be allowed to do that. But they went for some training and they came back and said, gee, this is too hard. I don't think we're going to do this. So some more years passed.
All right.
And then we at the church, we got a new children's pastor that came, who came from a church in New Jersey where they had a Royal Family Kids Camp. So he, after a year or so, identified some leadership and began the camp here locally. And as I said, I was the assistant director from the inception and ultimately, moved into being the director. And, I was still in my career at the time, but eventually when I retired from that, I was able to spend a little more time on Royal Family. And one of the things that means is that we are actively trying to get some camps started in some contiguous counties.
All right.
So we can talk about that too if you want.
Okay. Now, this camp that we're going, the one that you work with, is for Erie County?
Yes, all of our kids come from Erie County. The camps tend to be based like in one county, although some of the counties, particularly in California, where there's far greater population than one camp could handle, there could be multiple camps in one county.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, these local camps, it's at a non-disclosed location, correct?
Yeah, we don't really broadcast where we do it for safety
reasons.
and privacy of the kids, which goes into the area of we don't take pictures of the kids that others could see outside of camp.
Right.
Even the campers get pictures that are of them and their activities, and maybe with their counselor and other members of the staff, but not even other campers.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of privacy that needs to be maintained here.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Now, how do you determine what children will attend camp?
Well,
Face it, there's a lot of kids that
right.
Children's Services works with.
Well, there are really only two qualifications. Number one, to be connected with the Erie County foster care system and be between 6 and 12.
All right.
Or be 6 all the way through 12. Okay. And it's not income based at all. It's not based on anything other than being in the foster care system. And perhaps maybe we do take kids that maybe had been a camper with us and now they're adopted in a permanent home. They still come back to the camp. We welcome them too. So just to give you an idea of the numbers, first I'll tell you is that we actually do take almost all of the eligible kids every year. Yeah, at least at our camp. Now that's not true for every camp, especially in counties that have very large population where there are thousands of kids in the system.
Can't.
And even though they have multiple camps, the camps effectively can only be from about 25 kids to maybe 100 or so kids. We take around 60 kids.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That is quite
That's almost
quite
all,
an undertaking,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, that's almost all of the age-eligible kids each year. Now, the first years when we were kind of getting up and running, we took 20, then the next year 30, then 40s, and so on. Mm-hmm. And prior to last year when we had 60, although we did have 60 about 5 years ago that went, the most we'd had was like 52. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of a function, like I say, of how many kids are in the system. At any given time in Erie County, there are around 235 kids in the foster care system. Some of them are living with traditional foster homes that comes to mind when you think of it. In other words, a non-related set of people that non-related to the child. set of people that take them into their home, maybe with other foster kids or in addition to their own children. But some stay in what are called kinship homes.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you
Yeah.
work with kinship care?
Yes. Kinship in Erie County is actually subcontracted to Family Services.
All right.
So now the traditional foster homes are beginning this year have also been subcontracted as well. But still, the OCY is where the caseworker is
Okay.
that works with that child.
All right.
So we work with kinship and the traditional foster homes, and as I say, some kids that are actually in permanent homes as well that maybe have been in the system prior to that. But just to let people know, kinship is when the child would stay with perhaps an extended family member, and in some cases their own parents, because that's a possibility that the child would be in the system staying with their real parents, but because the parents need to be monitored.
Okay.
You see, so it's not quite a bad enough situation maybe to take them completely out of the home
Right.
for good, but still one that the parents need to be monitored for
Now
behavior.
Well, you're talking 60 children to begin with. That's quite an undertaking to begin with.
Right.
But you're talking with children that have seen abuse, neglect. I mean, you're talking
Abandonment.
I mean, children that
Right.
have had some serious issues. So, I mean, I admire you. I mean, do you have counselors that? Okay, counselors.
Yeah.
How many children per counselor at your camp?
That is one of the things that limits how many people we take to camp, how many
Okay.
kids we take to camp,
All right.
because the Royal Family Kids Camp model is that there is a maximum of 2 kids per counselor.
Okay.
And
all
then we
right.
buddy up that counselor with another counselor and their 2 kids. So they kind of hang together for the week of camp, and it makes it easier to kind of mix and match with the kids whenever there are choices on activities that would be going off in different directions. You know, the buddy counselors might switch campers
Okay.
for a few moments. But
All right.
so we typically do end up with a little bit of a waiting list of campers, not too many, maybe only a couple of kids. We really work hard to get the counselors that we need. And if we have a waiting list, it's typically for boys. It's always a little harder to get the male counselors than the female counselors.
Oh, okay.
I guess just because of availability in one's schedule to give up a week of vacation time in many cases, or home time certainly, to be at the camp.
This camp is wonderful, but Joel, tell me, what is the camp's mission?
Well, the mission is to provide positive memories in the lives of children that come from in a background of abuse, abandonment, and neglect, with adults that they can trust. I'm sure we've all heard of the issues with volunteers in organizations that work with children that have turned out to be detrimental to the children in one way or another. First of all, I will tell you that fortunately, in the entire 32 years now of the organization, there have never been any incidents like that in Royal Family. One of the reasons is that there is a great degree of training for not only those that lead the camps, but for the local volunteers as well. If you're a new volunteer with us, you would go to like an entire Friday evening and an all-day Saturday of training, and then more training. We actually arrive at the camp a day before the campers, and we train all that day. And you have to do that every year that you come back. And part of that training is a child protection policy that we have. We have what we call a 2 deep rule. 2 deep means that a child is never alone with an adult.
All right.
There is always at least 2 adults with 1 child. I mean, normally the adults are with both of their kids, but there
Right.
could be an incident. Like, I'll give you an example. Let's say we have a meal in the dining hall, and then we go out in front of the dining hall after dinner and we have some field games. The restroom is just inside the front door of the dining hall.
All right.
If one kid has to go in that restroom we'll have 2 adults, one holding the door open and not going into the restroom with that child. Not that anybody could see in the restroom, but
Right.
because the hallway goes around inside the restroom. They wouldn't be alone with that child in that restroom, and a second adult would be watching the first adult,
Okay.
holding the door.
So you have a lot
Yeah.
of safety precautions
Absolutely.
in place.
Right. And we've been ramping it up. The national organization has been ramping it up with their requirements for our training now the past couple of years.
Okay.
That other camps that have not been doing it, we've been doing something that is now being required the entire time we've had the camp, and
Okay.
that is FBI fingerprinting.
Okay.
You
I was
know,
going to ask
that
if they do that.
Right. There's a form filled out, there's a background check, and FBI fingerprinting.
Okay.
So-
Now, Joe, tell me what the typical day is at this camp.
Well,
What do you have planned for
that is probably the most typical thing about the whole thing, because it's, although the kids might be different,
Right.
okay, and the way
This
that
is
we have
typical
volunteered.
camp.
This is summer camp with everything that you think of whenever that you think of Y camp, church camp, scout camp. It's that, because the place that we go is an operating camp all the other weeks of the summer
Okay.
as well for their own program, and they have a lot of facilities for what we need, and the biggest thing is swimming. We schedule 2 swimming sessions a day, and in addition to that, there's always crafts, and campfires, and this particular camp has the opportunity for us to give pony rides to the kids, and of course hay rides, and field games, archery, just all kinds of stuff like that.
How exciting. And I would think, Joel, some of these kids have never had the opportunity to experience nature in this regard,
Yeah,
right?
a lot of them are city kids that have always lived in the city.
And haven't had the chance for anything
Many
like
of them
this.
have never, been on a horse before, that's for sure, But each evening we have a special program for them. Typically on Monday evening we'll have Jungle Terry and his exotic animals come from Ashtabula and give a demonstration. They love that. I mean, that never gets old. He brings different animals all the time.
Okay, well,
so-
kids love
Yeah.
exotic animals,
And-
any animal.
Oh yeah, and he carries them around and he can touch, He's got an albino skunk.
Well, there you go.
But-
Haven't seen one, but
Yeah.
kids would love it.
Yes, and one of the coolest things we do, of course, we have a talent show one of the evenings. Now, this is a big deal for kids. We do that later in the week so that they have those days to get some confidence. And then you can't get them off the stage sometimes, But they'll do all kinds of stuff for that talent show. And one of the neat things is we have the local fire department come with a couple of their pumpers, and they give a safety demonstration for a while, and then they just start spraying water out into the field. It arches up and it makes a rainbow in the sunlight, and the kids
geez.
just run through that and drag their counselors in, and it goes on for half hour, 45 minutes.
Kids and fire trucks
Yeah.
and water, are you
And they
kidding
make
me?
the siren go, and,
They, cou-
so.
they couldn't ask for anything more. Now, listening to this, not only do the children gain from this, but the adults also benefit from this too, right?
Yeah, it sounds like if you just listen to what we've been talking about so far, the only thing that happens is that we make 60 kids happy
Right.
for a week at
Right.
this one camp, and just those. It actually expands way beyond that because, first of all, like I said, we're all volunteers,
Right.
and so
Okay.
consequently, we also have to raise all of our money every year. It costs us about $42,000 every year for the camp.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, all things considered, when you add in the cost of the training and all the materials and so on that we use, and you just divide it by the number of kids we take, and the cost of the campground.
How do you get your funding?
We have primarily from individual donors, but we do
Right.
have certain fundraising events, including an annual banquet that will have a speaker. We have been very blessed to receive grants over the years from not only the Erie Community Foundation from time to time, but also some of the larger businesses in the area, like
right.
Erie Insurance and Highmark. And, you know, we also have been the recipient several times of a nice amount from the GE Employees Community Service Fund, where the amount they keep from, where they give from their paychecks that
Right.
goes into a pool, and then there's a committee that decides they have blessed us too. But that's the sort of thing. So a combination of many smaller donors and so on, the individuals, and you know, a couple of fundraising events, and then some larger grants each year that we get. That's how we do it. But you know, the getting back to how the community is affected, when you have to go back to the knowledge that the likely statistical outcome for foster children is not that great. I didn't know about this till I got involved, Judy, and all this is just flying under the radar.
I know it is. That's why I wanted you on the program.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, because you know that it's surprising information for people when they happen to tune in and see it. For example, foster kids are 25% more like, well, no, 25% of them will be homeless at some point in time. Because remember, they age out at 18. Okay, so here's what happens after 18.
All right.
They are more likely to not have gone to college. Who's going to pay for it?
Exactly.
They are more likely to experience unemployment. And then you get into things like there's a disproportionate number of people on death row, or people that are participating in prostitution that were foster children, a disproportionate number compared to you know, the general population. They are, you know, overall 40% likely to be incarcerated at some point. So you have to understand, if you are helping to make a difference in the lives of children at this impressionable age, so that when they get to those inevitable Ys in the road, good, bad, that if you can help them make better decisions, and if you can give them hope that somebody does care for them. And just on the aside, they are often surprised to find that those of us at the camp are the only adults in their life who are not being paid to be in association with them. I mean, God bless the foster parents.
I never thought of that.
They get a little money for that, probably not enough money. But everyone else, like the courts, the lawyer, the caseworker, everybody that you can think of that's a part of having having a child in our community with no parents is paid. Okay, we're not paid, and they're surprised to find that out sometimes. Okay, so when you are helping these children, ultimately you are helping our community, because what community do they age out into? Here.
Exactly.
You know, and so it's not just helping those kids that week. You're helping the community as a whole. And then you have the whole offshoot of the adults that say, I got to do more. We have volunteers that entered fostering as a result of being volunteers at our camp. And many of them became foster parents, and some have adopted.
Isn't that wonderful?
I have one of our people in leadership, she and her husband were counselors in the first years we did the camp. They were newlyweds then, found out they couldn't have their own children shortly after they got married, and after volunteering at the camp became foster parents. By the time she was 30, the month she turned 30, they finished their 5th adoption.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So there's 5 kids right in our community.
Right there.
Yeah.
That have such a beautiful home now.
Right.
Oh my, you guys do a great job. All right. How can we help you?
Well, you can go to our website and donate right there. There's a button right on there, and it goes right to just our camp. I mean, you can go to the national site as well and donate to the national organization, but our site is www.erie.royalfamilykids.org.
Okay.
And anything donated on that site is directly to our camp.
And that goes right here?
Yep.
Okay, now what if someone wants to volunteer?
Then they would need to do an application with us, and they can call me for an application, and they can call me for any information they want to know about
And what
the
number
camp.
can they reach you
That's
at?
814, of course, but 868-1116.
Okay.
868-1116.
All right. Joel, this is wonderful. I'm going to tell you something. This Royal Family Kids Camp. Now, this happens 1 week in the
Yes.
summer, right?
Right.
Now, can these kids come back and participate every year?
Yes, they can come back as many as, what would that work out to, 7 times.
Okay.
We have had camps, or kids at the camp that
Mm-hmm.
have been there 5, 6 times, you know. And I think we're hoping that we'll get to the point where we will have some volunteers come back and that were former campers. That usually does happen, you know, with many of the camps. But you have to understand, we are not really able to keep contact up with the kids after camp.
So it's up to them, and they reach
Yeah,
out to you.
right.
So, well, Joel, our time is at an end. Thank you so much for letting our viewers know about Royal Family Kids Camp, how we can help you. You guys do a great job. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you for not just sitting and watching TV on your retirement
Yeah.
and becoming the director of Royal Family Kids.
Oh,
Again,
Judy,
thank you so much. I
You're welcome.
appreciate everything that you do. Viewers, if you want to donate, you heard, I mean, they need donations, they need volunteers. Anything you can do to help, give them a call, check out their website. Thank you for tuning into the Millcreek Government Channel. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.